Good. So, welcome again. My background, as they mentioned, is Ørsted. So, a northern European company doing offshore wind power, basically large wind turbines at sea. It didn't start like that. Ørsted went through the whole industrialization process, starting with land-based technology deployed at sea. So it was in Denmark, so sea is like ankle deep, but we called it out at sea anyway. We had a period of operating our own vessels, installation vessels, simply because there wasn't a market for it. That's how immature the industry was. But of course, over recent years, it's come to the point where we're deploying highly specialized, purpose-designed, purpose-built technology out at sea in a very, very state-of-the-art supply chain. And I think this highlights one of the points of blue technology, which is super difficult, that typically you start with land-based technology and you put it out at sea, and then you go from there. That's like the first problem you have to solve. And I think the winners are the ones that identify characteristics in the technology that give it a competitive advantage by being deployed at sea compared to had it been on land. And obviously, I think Baromar is a brilliant example of that, but I'm going to let that cliff hang until Yonadav's introduction a bit later. So now I'm at Aperio. What we do is data quality, basically. We make sure that companies can trust the sensor data that they operate by, in very, very short. How I got here is a longer story. I'll give you the short version. I was running the ventures team out of Ørsted, and of course I found this amazing Israeli startup. And yeah, now I'm working with Aperio in Tel Aviv for the 4.5 years. So at Aperio we do the same thing. So even in the digital world, we have the backlog of issues that arise from applying land-based technologies out at sea. Most IT and OT deployed at sea, especially if it's a bit older, is implemented with the assumption that you can relatively easily reach it if you need to, which is of course like the opposite of the reality. But I think looking into some of the trends that we see in blue tech in general, that's changing. It's no longer necessarily land tech at sea. There's more and more... I think the microphone is glitching a bit. It's good? So it's more and more purpose designed. It's not me. Okay, third time. Yeah. It's more and more purpose designed and implemented innovation and projects that you see. So we are moving away from this land tech at sea. Some of the other trends that we see, and this is also supported by organizations like International Renewables Agency, IRENA. It's not just me sort of dreaming here, but sustainability and marine biodiversity is more and more becoming integrated into the bigger blue tech projects rather than standalone initiatives. We have autonomous technology being a game changer for business cases, simply because it eliminates a bit of the difficult to reach the asset problem. And then lastly, the blue tech market is becoming truly global, where I think offshore wind energy was really a northern European success story. And now we see developments where tidal power, for example, is deployed far and wide, from Indonesia to South Korea to Djibouti. We have very experimental ocean thermal energy conversion deployed off of Madagascar. So the globalization of blue tech, I think, is something that'll benefit the world, basically. So if we bring the perspective a bit back to today, take a quick status, I think no one can talk green transition without talking blue economy, right? I think everyone acknowledges that now, which is amazing. And of course, if you look to the sea, it's clear how the energy at play out there is it's too big to ignore. You have the winds, you have the waves, you have the tidal forces. You even on the carbon front have old reservoirs from oil and gas that are super viable for injection of carbon. And of course, the technology needs to be viable. That's the key thing, and offshore wind really led the way. There's no doubt that's a mature technology. Recent woes aside, of course, economic environment globally changed, so that made it difficult for offshore wind, including. But nonetheless, it's a mature energy. And I also think that now is really the time for a push for the next innovation wave, right? We see wave energy, we see tidal energy coming onto the scene. we see hyper-experimental ocean thermal energy conversion and saline gradient energy coming onto the scene at lower technology readiness levels, but nevertheless sort of making an appearance. So that brings us to the conclusion for this sort of scene setter, right? Ultimately, we're dealing with harsh environments. We're dealing with difficult business cases. And I think ahead of us are really a significant task as project developers, technology developers, as strategic partners, public stakeholders, everyone sort of coming together to solve some of these difficult tasks that lay ahead. But then we're really looking at sort of a great market opening up within blue tech. So I think with this, I've spoken enough for now at least, so let's do a round and maybe introduce yourselves and what you do and how you fit into the blue economy. Let's try and keep this short because then we have some further questions for each of you. So if we'll look to the timer a bit, as I have failed to do completely for this intro, but maybe you'll do better.
Hi. So I'm the CEO of ESIL. ESIL is a partnership that was forged between three large companies: EDF Renewables, which is the French electric company, or the renewable arm of the French electric company; Bazan, which is Israel's largest petrochemicals conglomerate; and Johnson Matthey, which is one of the largest chemical companies in the world. So this is sort of a strange marriage between three large international companies. They didn't have any prior business between them, but did find the common ground in this case to form this partnership. And what we do, we invest in early stage climate tech startups. This with the support of the Israel Innovation Authority. When we formed and through the initial years of operation, we never took blue tech or blue economy as one of the titles. The focus was on climate tech, but as you described, it's an evolving ecosystem. And if I look at the things we've looked at in the past, we've invested in, and we look forward into investing. So any type of energy production or storage, onshore, offshore, as you mentioned, wave, wind, solar, etc., carbon capture, carbon sequestering, usage of carbon, alternative modes of propulsion for shipping, for the shipping industry. There's really a wide array of potential areas of interest. Again, some of them we've already invested in. We've made 13 investments so far. Sweet spot for us is the early stage companies, pre-seed and seed. And that's basically what we're looking at.
Yeah, hello everyone. So on my right, there is an investor, a colleague of mine, also representing a French company. On my left, these are the startups we potentially invest in. And we at iKare Innovation represent ENGIE. You might have heard about Gaz de France, GDF, Suez, less about ENGIE, which is the new name. And ENGIE is present in nearly 50 countries in the world, mostly in Europe, half of them. And we produce electricity, even if we were originally a gas company, we diversified to renewables. What ENGIE New Ventures is looking for in Israel is obviously technology. ENGIE New Ventures is the investment arm. We've been doing since over 10 years 50 investment for an average of 5 million euro per investment, or follow-on included. And in Israel, we signed on 2 investments, one back in 2018, small scale, and now it's bigger scale, recycling of organic waste. It's called home biogas, producing biogas at home, but also at work. And we just closed a new investment this summer in an optimization for desalination. The Israeli startup Carbon Blue finalized its first major round, and we were part of it. On iKare, I will only say that we represent ENGIE. We are a sustainability consulting company, and we also work in the mobility environment, so mobility and energy, and this is where we meet actually water and the ocean. We will tell it a little more later.
Hi, my name is Yonadav Buber. I'm the CEO of Baromar. Baromar is a startup where what we're doing is that we're doing trying to look for the best solution for large-scale, long-duration energy storage, where what we're doing is that we're using basically very mature technology of compressed air energy storage, just putting the air underwater and utilizing the hydrostatic pressure in order to actually hold this. Sounds simple enough, but overall it's a fantastic solution that is embodiment of a blue economy, because we're utilizing the actual natural properties of the ocean in a mature economy that, as you mentioned, started onshore. And by utilizing the ocean, we're reducing costs, and we're just creating a terrific solution for, I think, one of the largest problems today in the global economy.
So, pretty loud. My name is Vogt. First of all, thank you all for having me here. I am a professor at the Technion, where I lead a group of researchers who focus on catalysis. We specifically focus on carbon capture and conversion technologies, mainly. And I'm also the co-founder and lead scientist of Mosaico, which is a startup that has been created to commercialize the technology that's coming out of the lab. Some of my brilliant graduate students and our CEO over here, we invented a technology that is, as far as we are currently aware, the lowest energy consumption carbon dioxide removal, direct removal technology that exists in the world by an order of magnitude. And on top of that, we also are the cheapest, or one of the cheapest, in large-scale expansion, and to be able to expand really fast and really cheaply. We do that by co-location, and that's also where the blue economy energy story starts, why we play there. The technology is blue. We obviously make use of the ocean in order to capture our CO2, where 88% of all CO2 in the world is, by the way. So it's a pretty good place to start. We also reduce pollution into the ocean by our process. Economy, while doing that, we produce a significant amount of additional revenues for our clients by producing carbonate minerals in a continuous process. And then energy, we reduce actually their, or we increase their efficiency, we reduce their own energy consumption in their core process with the technology, alongside being extremely energy efficient. So that's what we do and why we're here.
Excellent. So hold on to the microphone, please. So the first question for you: how have you seen the sort of collaboration between academia, startups, and large industry benefit you as a blue tech startup specifically?
I'll be very quick about it. I came here for this reason. I'm at the Technion for this reason. Israel is an amazing place to bring deep tech innovation to fruition. I specifically picked the place where I wanted to do that. Also, on top of that, maybe it's good to add that I've been a professor at the Technion now for 3 years, and in that time I've put together an amazing group of students. We've invented the technology. We've spun out an additional 4 generations of that technology, and we've left the Technion. So despite the sort of popular opinion about academia and how slow things are, 3 years is what it took us to develop this. The collaboration of academia with industry and in this way, they go hand in hand, especially with a problem like we're facing in carbon. We have gigatons that we have to remove. These are colossal amounts of CO2 that requires breakthrough innovation. And for breakthrough, you need a few key ingredients, and one of them is fundamental research and a real understanding of what's going on, right? So you have to have both the fundamental understanding of the science that's going on, of the thermodynamic principles that go into technologies like this, and hopefully also at the same time have a fundamental understanding about the economy that's involved in certain processes like this. And I think it's also something that is worth highlighting, that I think the new generation of professors in academia are really like the young group. It's not like it used to be that you're in academia to get your name on a building or to win the Nobel Prize. I think that a lot of us are just really wanting to do good. And for example, for me, I also have an MBA, a background in business, and it's changing. We're in a new era for academia. So, yeah.
Sounds great. So maybe building on that, if we move to you, and so what are some of the trends that you see investors looking for when it comes to blue energy, blue tech, carbon solutions?
So there are so many. I'll focus on those that NG New Ventures are looking at. Regarding energy consumption and polluting energy consumption of the shipping industry, we can see, for instance, at the level of Europe that the regulation is really accelerating the tech move, and we need to find urgent tech solutions. So for a VC, it's an ocean of possibilities. So the Fuel EU regulation basically asks for zero emission from fuel by 2050, which in average, what is required is to reduce by 5% the consumption or the impact of the fuel. So this is something for an energy player we are definitely looking at. From different angles, I saw two startups here, Marine Edge and Niam Wings, who are tackling the topic from different angles. The second topic for NG is one, if not the most important player in desalination in the world. But the best technology is here in Israel. And we know that also it was born from a collaboration between Veolia at that time and IDE. So it was already a French-Israeli collaboration. We have markets in GCCs. In the Gulf, we have 9 desalination plants, and we produced 6 million cubic meters of desalinated water on a daily basis. And we expect the Israeli technologies to be integrated into our operations. This is to take one example of the industry that needs to improve the impact, but you have many. But we focus on whatever we can use ourselves. So it's an industrial, strategic investor. And the third trend, which is very short, is that we were always talking about carbon footprint. And more I hear about water footprint. It started maybe 10 years ago. It's gaining more importance now. So sometimes the wording is important. Water was the forgotten factor for too long.
Thank you for that. And yeah, no, let's go to Amir. Given what Anne explained, do you think, if you look at the strengths and weaknesses of the Israeli blue tech ecosystem, are we able to offer what Anne and NG are looking for, and where maybe some of the weaknesses that need to be glossed over while we focus on the strengths?
So I'll start from the strength. At the end of the day, it all sits on the basic DNA of the quote-unquote startup nation. You have the academic knowledge, you have the entrepreneurial spirit, and that's the basis for everything. Another thing to mention, which is a specific strength for blue economy, I think relatively to the short coast that we have here in Israel, you have an amazing playground, at least for the early stage, for POCs, everything from municipalities to ports to marinas to offshore gas, the electric company, a lot of players which are willing and able to host a POC, shallow water, deep water, etc. The weakness is, a lot of it is market education. I think there's not enough awareness regarding blue tech and blue economy, and it extends the whole value chain from the knowledge, the IP, through the entrepreneur, and again to investors and customers. So events like this one help with this economy. I think what we're also missing is a few success stories, a few mosaicos and Baromars that will make good investment rounds and grow, and that will pull up again from the bottom more knowledge and more investments. As I told you about ourselves, I'm sure there are a lot of technologies which people are not aware that are blue tech technologies, but once the market is better educated, they will become aware and they will be able to direct them in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree on the awareness part. I mean, it's great to see the size of this event, for example, right? The number of startups, it's the second time, so it's hopefully there'll be a third and a fourth, and we'll ride on the awareness building wave. And so, lastly, you alluded to the success story, Yonadav. Could you explain briefly, just so the audience understands the economics in energy storage, particularly offshore, why it's so difficult, and then how Baromar manages to do it so successfully from sort of the unit economics perspective?
Sure. I think that, first of all, that's the most important question. I think that a lot of the startups today the answer of economical model kind of eludes them. And especially in a market such as the electricity market, when you're working on true pennies, you have to be very sensitive for that. So right now, a lot of this market, especially with the renewable market, grew from subsidies. And what we're trying to do in Baromar is really work on a financial model where we understand, first of all, what we are replacing. And when you're looking at fossil fuel energy, you have to understand that in fossil fuel storage, energy storage is built in. That's the pile of coal that is sitting in your backyard, or the oil can that then fuels the furnace, etc. It's the actual fuel. And if you want to then regulate the electricity that you produce, you simply put more or less of the actual fuel. And with renewable, you don't have that, right? I mean, the sun rises and sets and the wind blows, and it really doesn't match your actual energy consumption. And what we're trying to do is that we understand right now that there is a separation in renewable between storage and actual production of energy. And when we're looking at storage as a separate economical unit, you have to understand that it has to be cheap enough at the end of the day for the final consumer, for myself, for you, for anybody else in this crowd, to, when they're paying the electricity bill, to not be hurt by the fact that we're using renewable energy. So at the end of the day, that's what we're striving for. We're striving for a price which is lower than 4 cents a kilowatt for storage. We're hoping to reach 2 cents per kilowatt for storage. At that price, by the way, we are by far cheaper than anything else in the market, by at least 70–80%. And with that kind of price, basically we're enabling all renewable energy to be much better utilized around the world. And that's right now the problem. The only reason why we're not 100% renewable is just that there's no cheap storage. So we're looking at that.
Right. Yeah, excellent. And one of the things that I think is really impressive is sort of the simplicity in the design that you've arrived at, right? Because when designing something complex that works is easy. Designing something where you reduce the complexity and still having it work is incredibly difficult. And then the simplicity is even more important at sea because you have so many elements that cause erosion. So you don't want exposure, you don't want moving parts, you don't want any of that you can get away with on land, right? So I must say I'm very, very impressed by what you've managed to do at Baromar. And I think maybe unsolicited advice for all, right? Simplicity is hitting doubly hard when it comes to the blue economy, because you can't reach the assets, because the assets are subjected to forces that are sort of the strongest we have on the planet, maybe only second to volcanoes, right? But that's the level we are at, right? So I really think that's a key takeaway. An improvised question, because we have time and I'm going to use it. Permitting. Permitting in Europe is a nightmare. And it's the point where I tell the startups that I work with outside sort of here in the renewable space, understand it from the beginning in detail. Does any one of you, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but does anyone want to comment on sort of permitting, maybe Israel versus Europe or other experiences?
Yeah, I'll take that because we just had this experience. I mean, we're putting our first of a kind in Cyprus, and we're now working on a commercial project in Cyprus. And yeah, permitting is hell, okay? There's no going around it. In Israel, it's extremely problematic. But at the end of the day, first of all, it makes sense. I mean, we're dealing in energy. Energy is the lifeline, is the blood of all the economy. There should be heavy regulation. What specifically we're trying to do is that we're showing that our solution is so environmental friendly and has zero or as close to a zero hazard to the grid and to the environment as possible. And by that, for example, we were able to receive, for example, permits in Cyprus within 3 weeks, which is a record time for the onshore part, and about 9 months for the offshore part. So you understand that when there is a need and when there is a good solution, then there is a way. And that's fantastic.
Amazing.
If I may, one last word before time is out. You mentioned Cyprus, I mentioned Europe, we mentioned Greece. I mean, in these troubled times, I want to remind of the Mediterranean neighbors that we have. We need to look for technological supply chain routes for collaboration, and there are so many.
Yeah, great point. And time is up. Is it short?
I would just like to add on the permitting side. Permitting is too much of a burden for a startup to carry on its shoulders. So for this reason and others, join a strong strategic partner or partners. Focus on developing the technology. Let them deal with the permitting.
Definitely. I think that's a great place to end. So thank you very much.